Yeah. To all the ladies in the house. Another day in the ghetto. But look outside and I'm already upset, yo. It look about 102. It's a Saturday and Biggie ain't got nothing to do. I'm interrupted by a phone ring. Sometimes I wish I never.
Hi, I'm Paul Warren,
And I'm Ryan Klein.
and this is another episode of SEO is Dead and Other Lies. Ryan, it's a beautiful Florida day here. How's it going for you in North Carolina?
You already know because I already told you.
Not such a
Just
beautiful
minute
day.
ago.
Yeah, so
It's overcast, but it's nice and cool. And that's all that
overcast.
matters.
It's
And it's a
overcast,
Thursday.
and it means it's a good day to cast when it's overcast because it's something you do inside.
How about that? Has
Uh,
anyone ever said that before? I bet that a couple people have.
yeah, I'm sure. I mean, you don't normally podcast outside. That would be kind of strange, I think. I mean, the one
Yeah,
time that
unless you want some background noise.
One time, this waitress asked me if I was going to podcast in the lobby of a bar because I brought my mic with me when I was meeting you actually in downtown Orlando. She's like, "Are you going to podcast?" And I was like, "Yeah, like not in here. It would be loud
Or
as hell."
maybe. I
Yeah,
mean, we've casted nothing nothing too exotic. Conference rooms.
that's really the worst place the
That's
echo is
it.
pretty
Living
bad in a
rooms.
conference room. Yeah, living rooms
That's
mostly,
about it.
offices. Well, we have a great show today. We're going to talk about something that's old, but it's become very relevant again, and that is Barnacle SEO. So, if you don't know what Barnacle SEO, I'm going to tell you right now. It's a pretty easy concept to understand if you know what a barnacle is. It's just something that attaches itself to a ship and is carried along. And that metaphor goes into SEO is where you're attaching your brand to another website that's ranking really well for stuff maybe that you don't rank well for, right? Or that just outranks you in general, that allows you to have a profile on it or something, or some mention of your brand. So think of like Yelp, things like that, where people can go and find you and you can still get business from it, right? So that is traditionally what Barnacle SEO is. And now you might be wondering, okay, I've heard of it before, or maybe I haven't, whatever. Why are you talking about it? Well, over the past, I guess, 6 months, maybe longer, Google has given a lot of weight to Reddit, which I think is tied directly to them using Reddit to like train their AI, and it's like the trade-off they made because they're going public, or they went public and they wanted to increase a bunch of traffic, so they have like better reporting, quarterly
Hmm.
reports coming out. So I think it's really all tied into that. But either way, when you Google anything right now, you get a lot of results with Reddit, a lot of different forums threads happening. So it represents a really good opportunity for Barnacle SEO.
Yeah, absolutely. And then from the other standpoint, for the SEO, I've seen that people that own their own assets are allowing for Barnacle SEO more or less to happen based off of the authority they've amassed for a long period of time. So there's on one side that maybe the exploitive, I don't know if that's a word, exploiting.
Yeah,
Don't want to do all the
exploitive,
syllables. I know it's a lot of muddled syllables in there. There's
exploitive.
SEOs that are, going out and they're latching on. They're the latchers, ships and whales.
The
A lot of
lampreys.
whales.
Yeah.
But then there are also the people that are the ships that are completely aware and they take advantage of it and they monetize it. So there's also, this symbiotic, if you will, in some instances, relationship.
Yeah. Yelp, I think, is a really good example of someone that has taken advantage of it over the years, right? And for years and years and years, they had really top rankings for a lot of different services and restaurants, things like that. Your general searches like pizza near me or whatever. Um, and of course, I think like their traffic has gone down a lot as more people have gone to mobile and looking at map packs and things like that. I think they've lost a lot of that traffic, but they were really at the top of the game. Like people cared more about their Yelp reviews than they did their Google business reviews.
Gosh, I'm glad I don't even know what year that would have been, but it's
Yeah, they
fortunately we think that we've gotten past that, at least
we
most
definitely
of my
have,
companies we have.
and that, Yelp just sued Google because of it, because claiming that they have a
Yeah, what were
monopoly
they
over
crying
it.
about this time that they're like the game the system? It's
They're
like
like,
they
we
were
don't have a
manipulating their own
monopoly.
rankings, and it's like it's how we present you on our platform. It's
Yeah,
on our engine.
they had no problem when they had a monopoly. Like there was no issue, when it was everyone went to them for the reviews, right? But getting back to the topic, they took advantage of that because if you it was pay to play basically, right? You wanted reviews removed, you could pay for a profile, a higher level profile in there, and they can edit it, and they go back to the person that left it, and they don't respond, they get it removed. You could have higher placements. There's a lot of things that you could do to monetize those listings, and it really wasn't any different than a lot of different directories. I mean, we remember Avo back in the day, which is a
Hey,
really
it's still around.
still kind of kicking, right? But yeah, they were a huge legal directory, just like FindLaw. I think I don't know if either of those Avo certainly has been diminished than what it was at its height. But I don't know how much
FindLaw jumps
FindLaw is.
back and forth. You see like a mix of, I'm not going to make this the legal stuff, but what's interesting observations about is the ones that ended up succeeding, there's a lot of authority, for people out there that for who knows what reason still think that links don't do anything. But FindLaw and Justia and Superlawyers tends to kind of cycle in and out based off of like link velocity and authority. If you really look, it's very correlative. And Avo stuck around for a long time because they were able to do, would the phrase be crowdsourcing? They did a really great job at encouraging lawyers to answer questions, and then in turn they would boost their score. Remember, so like people to get to the coveted 10.0,
Yeah,
be that peer reviews or just client reviews, but you actually had to answer a lot of questions.
yeah, it's
Continuously.
very similar to what Google does now for lots of things. If you're, like a local guide or something like that, or like the local help forum,
Right.
where they give you points for answering questions correctly. And then eventually you can have that coveted local expert tag next to your name, which I guess you can charge more or something. Who knows? But they do the same thing, and it's user generated content, but then user interaction, right? As a part of it. So they definitely rewarded people that use the platform more. But yeah,
Absolutely.
why we're getting on this topic, there's still a lot of opportunities I think that SEOs can take advantage of. But the biggest one out there right now, and I think it's only going to get worse, is Reddit. And so if you're not thinking about what a strategy looks like for that in your website, you should be. Because one, it can be highly specific to whatever your business is, right? And it can be very local to where you're at too. I mean, there's a subreddit for like literally everything that's out there,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think that the perils that you see with this is like Reddit tends to hate people that are self-promoting in their responses to things and the questions that they have, right? So if you got to do it, you got to go really incognito here and not act like you're promoting this business or you're the owner of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, you see the dialogue. They're like, "Well, I didn't work with this firm, and nor do I work for this firm, nor do I do marketing for this firm, but they seem like really good guys." And they're like, "Wow, that's like a very roundabout way of saying like you're promoting them in like
Yeah,
not a legitimate way."
I guess the easiest way to do it would just be to you know do some searches yourself and see what pops up as a forum thread, and then go in there and leave a comment that is promotional in nature, I suppose, but it doesn't seem like it. So if the question was who's the best, I'm looking for a really good DUI lawyer in Orlando, you could respond and say, oh, it's this firm, right? And it could be your firm. But
Right.
if they look at your post history and you talk a lot about your firm, they're going to figure it out and you're going to get downvoted.
It might be my ignorance and might be a little side note about Reddit, but man, they're really good at like tracking what kind of like subreddits you're at, and then emailing you like other activity that happens there when it's like hyper niche stuff. And so I won't even be logged in. I thought my account got banned for one reason or another years ago, and I'll look up like one thing about like some random, just the most random thing you can think of, and then it's like a thread that you might be interested in, and you're like, that does not look like Ellie from Last of Us. It's like, man, what are you
What?
talking about? Like, I did barely like looked at that for 5 seconds.
They're really good at that, and they're really good at tying it, I think, to conversations that happen, right? Because your TV and your phone, they're all listening to you, and it's all plugged in, and it's sitting back there. And you can believe that that's not happening, but you're absolutely wrong. Because I know
That's a whole other
I've seen some
podcast
of the
because
patents for it. They're
oh,
absolutely doing it. But
mhm.
I mean, I think we're past the conspiracy if it's not happening at this point. It's just knowing that it's an advertising tactic, right? But
Well,
like,
net neutrality, was destroyed basically in 2016. and then that from that point it just went haywire, and it
Yeah.
hasn't ended ever since.
So, you know, you'll just talk about something. I mean, my wife and I are going on a trip to Germany, and we've just talked about that, and I've gotten, hey, you might be interested in this subreddit for Munich, Germany, you know, like stuff to do there. And it's like I've never searched anything on Reddit for that, right? I haven't searched anything on Google even for it. Just talked about it, and then boom, there it is. So they are really,
So
really
this is
good
why
at
you
that.
have to be. This is the other facet of the strategy, right?
Yeah.
Because you're gonna get in front of people whether they like it or not.
It's interesting to see how Quora has fallen off
Yeah, wasn't it supposed to
directly
be like
related
it
to
was never
Reddit
supposed to be
increasing.
dominant? Yeah, they were like intertwined or interchangeable to an extent.
Yeah, but now it's like Reddit has absolutely sort of replaced Quora as like the user generated responses to questions and things like that. So sucks to suck, Quora, but your traffic's probably tanked. Hate to break it to you, it's not going to get any better.
So I guess when you're talking about the Barnacle SEO here, and we know what it looks like in a lot of websites, it's a lot of, building a profile, building up content, kind of like say sponsored content, but pretty much branding yourself off the back of the other authority. But when you're talking about Reddit, what do you have in mind to create like an
Yeah,
organic, beneficial
so
campaign?
that's a really the way I think what I'm going to suggest differs from what other people are thinking about doing with this. Um, is that I know just from talking to people in the past and my own experience, you can make results show up in Google for different types of mediums of content, right? So it's like Google wants to show a local result, but if no one doesn't exist for it, it's not going to show it, right? So you can make a local result that fits that query and it's going to show it up, and like you're going to get good rankings for it. And it's the same with like a YouTube video, right? Like it's looking to show video results that match that query. And if it can't find one, it's like, well, I can't show it, right? So you can use that, and you can create that content on those mediums. And I think that Reddit's going to be pretty much the exact same way, right? So if you can find a really specific question that there isn't really like a Reddit result for it, you can go and ask that question on one of the subreddits, and it's gonna show up.
Man, is that just like an extreme level of keyword research? Like, are you have to use like cross-reference 5 tools? Because I mean, talking about like the exponential nature of content
I
and
think
information.
I think you can find uh yeah, you can use
Yeah.
something like Ahrefs or SEMrush or whatever and find like the sentence phrases for those specific things and see if like they're just put it in Reddit and see if like there is a result for it, right? And I'm willing to bet if there is an exact match for a question, right, that has search volume, that you could put that question in a subreddit and that would show up at the top for it. So I don't think it's a ton of keyword research. I think it's like finding a keyword research based on like questions or like from a conversational nature that has the most search volume. And like that's what you go after. And you do enough of them, it really starts adding up, right? Or it's just very specific that whoever's looking for it, it's probably going to lead to some sort of click through for you, right? Or it could lead to a good sale.
Well, yeah, I think that people have a tendency, at least I would, so I can't speak about behalf of everyone, but kind of the whole, you trust like more reputable source. Like I know Reddit, and like if this person has like a bunch of upvotes, that means like a lot of people probably agree with it. They're not bots or like it's not being manipulated, right? So
I
I'm
mean,
gonna
it
trust that.
definitely is.
Oh wait, I was being sarcastic. Right.
Oh, it's the
Is that one of the
opposite.
things?
It is
So
absolutely all those things.
manipulating
Yes.
clout or
Karma.
kind of its own micro authority, microcosm of authority. People manipulate upvotes, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of services that you can go to that'll upvote you for stuff, right? I don't know if there's
Which
like
one stuff?
yeah, things like that. But I think it's an evolving strategy. I don't think this is going away anytime soon. I think Google and Reddit struck some pretty long-term agreement, specifically to train its AI, and it's going to be up there at the top for a lot of queries for a long time.
But it's like it's very much removed from the other ranking signals. So the positioning of Quora and Reddit is unique in that it's not observing the same qualities that other websites have to, because it's almost always like third, fourth, fifth. It's never like first or second, and it's it's always kind of in a very regimented position. So that means like the typical, yeah, signals that apply to other people are not applying to core and Reddit right now. It just they aren't. It's
Yeah,
very
I
calculated.
I think of it the same way that a YouTube video would show up, right? It's like it's not tied to backlinks going to it, like in the SERPs, not within YouTube. You know, like if you did a search query and it would show you like a video for it, like three spots down or something like that, right?
Hmm.
So it's almost like I won't say it's like ranking in spot zero, like a snippet, but it's almost like Google has dedicated this spot, which is above the fold, right, for these queries, and it lives independently of the algorithm that we know how it functions, right? And so I think it's just query based, and it's putting it in that spot.
Yeah, I think it would be because I typically love reverse. I'm doing the most gigantic. I'm not even using my fingers anymore. I'm using my
Just
hands,
waving.
quotation marks. You know, about like reverse engineering. So you can learn a lot from directories that rank well, and as far as like, the information they have and the schema information, the structure. But frankly, I don't know if there's anything you can reverse engineer or understand from these positions. Like, oh, like, should I have forums? Should I have threads or open up comments again? Should I do these things to my website because Google likes core and Reddit? It's like probably not. Like, they don't want you to emulate it. You just gotta have to do your thing.
You just gotta exploit it. That's all we're saying. It's just straight up you exploiting Reddit. And you know what? Reddit's fine with it. They don't care. You know why? Because they're a publicly traded company now. They're they're trying to show big numbers for things. They're trying to show increases in people like being members, right? Or accounts.
They got shareholders now.
They're
They got a
showing
board. Or they
increases in
probably did.
traffic. Yeah. So like
Yeah.
they don't care if it's fake or it's real or whatever. They'll just take it because like at the end of the day it looks good on a spreadsheet that they're presenting, right? So you know, if that's what's happening and that's what Google is doing, then all you can really do is exploit it, right?
Yeah, so you just have to create your own Reddit basically, and then you get to make your own rules, and then eventually that'll get position 5 for every random search. From how do I know if my best friend is cheating on me with my husband?
Oh, that's dark. Man, that went dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think a good way to do it is it kind of ties into subject matter experts as well, right? It's because you can answer these questions and you can do it without necessarily being promotional in nature, but still provide really good value to to questions people have on these subreddits, right? And sometimes that in itself like leads to more business. Like you can literally be like, well, I'm an orthodontist for this, and this is like like if someone asks something about like, well, how much should braces cost or something like that. I think if you're completely transparent with what you are, and not necessarily trying to be promotional, and then but adding value, a lot of the mods tend to be okay with that.
Sure. That makes sense. And one thing I think about with core and Reddit, where it's like, okay, I'll start a Reddit account now, and it's like, I don't know, it's been around for a very, very long time. And so people have, history. It's like, I've answered 18,000 questions. It's like, that's tough. But do you think that it might evolve into like, because Reddit is clearly not specific to any industry, it'll get to a point where it becomes Google proactively acknowledges, or like, here's the legal and there's the automotive and here's like the fantasy and furries and here's like gaming and like then this is like the forum, and it's gradually going up. Do you think that people, they're not going to be early adopters, but it's worth to like build it up because like down the road, a vertical specific Reddit might start showing up and you already have a presence there. Like that, I would
Yeah.
say that's a possibility.
Yeah. I mean, I honestly think this is also a ploy from Google to prevent Reddit from making a search functionality that's good for people, right? Like a lot of people trust the results that they get from Reddit, especially if it's like a local business. Like if it's a subreddit for Orlando or something, and people it's like, hey, what's a really good lawn care company? And you
Hmm.
see like people trashing companies, and you're like, I'm probably not going to use that one after reading that, right? But if like someone had a really good result and a bunch of people comment on that same business, they're like they've done great, you're like, okay, maybe I'll check them out. So I think what's prevented people from really doing it is the interface to search anything on Reddit is so terrible, right? That you kind of have to go to Google to search things. And so I think a little bit of this is like, let's hope that they don't make it easier to search through, and they'll just still use Google because they're going to get the same results from it, right?
Do you think Google's encouraging them? Like, we got the algorithm thing unlocked. Like, don't even I mean, search functionality is a lot different from an algorithm, clearly, but it's like, don't even bother with the user experience.
I do. I think that's a part of it. I think they know like the potential from people on Reddit and like how like the user base and how much people would rather search through it.
So I do want to talk just for a few minutes about Forbes. And we mentioned this before, but we didn't really do like a deep dive where it's like, they built up a lot of authority and they've been monetizing that crap for a while. There's like the Forbes Advisory Council. You can buy an article in Forbes. It's not that hard. It costs like a few $1,000s, but yeah, it's a pay-to-play platform. And they've started doing things in legal, and they've done it with mortgages and credit cards and insurance, and they're piggybacking again off the authority that they built as Forbes, which has always been like, the Forbes 30 under 30, 40 entrepreneurship, business. And so they're launching things that are adjacent, but they're not the same. Forbes should not really be advising on legal. They're probably going to advise on medical. Why does Google put out all this documentation like they did in March? Like, you're not going to be able to do subject matter and rank well for things that are outside your wheelhouse. And yet it just happens anyway, all the time. Like, what are we missing?
Yeah, I don't understand it. I think there's a different set of rules for a different set of businesses, right? It's like retail traders versus like commercial traders, right? Like, I don't care. Yeah, like it's set up to screw us, and like the big brands that drive a lot of traffic can pretty much do whatever they want.
I think that it's like an Orson Welles quote, except that it's not Animal Farm. It's like all websites are created equal, but some websites are more equal than other websites.
Yeah, that's a really, I think, accurate statement to make. I mean, I saw that this news just came out today that web core vitals really isn't that important.
Oh, that's cool.
And I could have told you that a long time ago for the most part, because I've worked at a lot of really big sites and they've done a lot of traffic and they've never had good web core vitals. I mean,
it says that they probably failed, and it's like
they did fail. But I've also noticed like everything else that was the same size, right, also had terrible web core vitals and like page speed insights. So if everyone sucks, no one sucks, right? But then
that's true.
You have the small local businesses, and they would be like super fast loading, right? Like let's say they paid an SEO team to do that or whatever, or like an agency.
But they can't keep up because all
crush
other
them.
metrics.
We would still crush them. Yeah, because at the end of the day, it was the authority of the site, and it didn't make any difference.
Right. So. Yeah. I mean, if it's, I think that we've always believed that there's a little bit more of like exponential difference. We've talked about like, and this is, I can't cite it anywhere, but like a 10 to 20 authority is like much lower jump than 20 to 30.
Yeah.
Like a 40 to 50 is like much more significant than probably the 1 to 40. Right. Yeah. Is that kind of the general
well,
idea?
Yeah, I mean it's progressively harder to get to that higher number, right? So 85 to, I don't know how much of a difference you'd get after 70 anyways. Between 70 and 100, I think that's just like,
I'd agree. Once you get to a certain
if you have
point,
a credit
like
score of
massive.
800, it's the same as having one as like 850.
Well,
so
if you had like a 50, that'd be ridiculous already.
Yeah. So I think there's like a tier there where like it's almost irrelevant, right? But I think like a really massive jump comes between like 40 and 50, right? Like if you get between that, then you're like very, very authoritative.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah. So and much more so than like if you're like, let's always say it's easy to go from nothing to like 15. Right. Domain authority score.
I think just to preface for the audience, they're like, what the hell metrics are they talking about? It's like the general score that would probably be equally relevant for like every tool you use, like the 40 to 50 range.
Yeah, if it's like DA, if it's I just go back to DA because that's the original Moz number, the Moz thing. Everyone sort of has like a different spiel on it, but they're almost the same numbers always, right? Like they're very, very close. Right. So but yeah, so those are sort of the massive jumps there, but they're hard to get. And you're not going to get it from Reddit, so I'll tell you that right now. I wonder what Reddit says. It's got to be like 100. It's like a website.
It's up there. Well, it's whatever we want it to be. Forbes must be up there. I'm assuming Forbes is 75 to 80.
Yeah. I mean, I thought didn't Forbes they got rid of like their coupon or something? They had like a coupon or coupon site
I
or
forgot
something.
all about that. See, like I love Forbes because it's clear that there's people working there. Like, how else can we squeeze a website for money? Like always.
Oh, I
Like
know.
for a long time.
I mean, they're
I love
they're
them.
they're in business to make money.
Well,
That's for
well,
sure.
according to SEMrush, they're a perfect 100.
There you
So I
go.
was not aware of
Nothing can
that.
do whatever they want.
Uh, that's why they have directories, and that's why they have
Yeah.
people that are probably like begging to pitch their idea of how we can further
Yeah.
monetize that website.
So I guess to sum up, the topic, Barnacle SEO, as relevant now as it's ever been. However, the tactics have changed a little bit. If you're not looking at Reddit, you really should be. We gave you some
Mhm.
good tactics of how to maybe get some business off of it, get some traction off of it, get your brand out there. The other, there are niche directories that still show up really well. Yelp still shows up well for some things. A lot of the legal ones still show up really well. A lot of the like
Mhm.
home advisor type stuff,
Mhm.
moving type stuff. Um, so if you don't have profiles on them for your business, you should probably think about doing it. And I can tell you for one thing, a lot of these, a lot of these websites have like an internal algorithm to show things like organically, right? Like Yelp is one of the things like that. Like you can search, pizza restaurants near me, and they're not going to sort it just by like the amount of reviews, right? Well, the top things are going to be what are paid placement ads. But under that, right, is like its own algorithm, how it figures out how to sort those things. And they're always super susceptible to like CTR, right? So just a small amount of clicks on like that profile will pump that thing up to the very top. And so it can be a legitimate strategy for driving more revenue to your business, is CTR manipulation on third-party sites that you're doing Barnacle
Well,
SEO.
we're going there too. Well, we should leave it at that because
Yeah, we
who
will.
knows? Maybe that's it's like what is gray hat? What do the hats look like nowadays, if any?
I mean, that only applies to Google as like the gray hat or black hat. We're just doing
I
something on
know.
someone else's
It's
website.
it's I know it's all fabricated. But
Yeah.
yes.
So, yeah, I mean, I think we did a good job covering this. Hopefully, anyone listening got something useful out of it, or at least, hey, maybe check out the SERPs next and see what's going on. But with that, I want to thank all of our listeners. We really appreciate everyone that listens to the podcast. If you have any questions or you'd like us to cover a certain topic, you can email us at seosandotherlies@gmail.com. And then be sure to like, share, subscribe anywhere that you listen to the podcast. We really appreciate it. With that, I'm Paul Warren,
I'm Ryan Klein.
and this has been another episode of SEO's Dead and Other Lies.
Peace.
Bye.